The World Report that was made in 2021 about Rwanda. The World Report was done in 2021 about Rwanda and anything concerned about Rwanda. But the report was done under human rights. Look about how Rwanda, in a global perspective manner, in a global persona, in a global percentage of standard of living, how Rwandans they arrive, how the Rwandans are, and how some people suffer. We are going to hear the World Report. Just hear from me until the end of the video. The ruling Rwandan Patriotic Front, which is RPF, continue to target those perceived as a threat to the government during 2020. Several high-profile government critics were arrested and threatened mostly. Authorities failed to conduct credible investigations into the suspiciously death in police custody of well-known singer and activist Kizito Mihigo in February. Arbitrary detention, illness treatment, and torture in official and unofficial detention facilities continued. Fair trial standards were routinely flouted in many sensitive police cases in which security-related charges are often used to prosecute prominent government criticals. Rwanda continued to host tens of thousands of refugees, mainly from neighboring countries, as well as several hundred Islams seeking for transfer from Libya. In August, those government began implementing with the United Nations Refugees Agent the first organized voluntary repatriation of refugees from Rwanda to Burundi. Let's go to subtopic that titled as political space and freedom of speech in Rwanda. The arrest and detention of Paul Rusesabagina, in prominent critical of the RPF, which started as enforcedly disappeared, raised grief concern over his ability to receive a fair trial in Rwanda. Rusesabagina, who fell to Belgium in 1996 and is now Belgian citizen, was living in the United States when he traveled from the US to Dubai, United Arab Emirates, on August 27th. He was forcibly disappeared on and all about the evening of August 27 until the Rwanda Investigation Bureau (RIB) announced it has Rusesabagina in custody in Kigali, Rwanda. On August 31st, Rusesabagina's family member were not able to speak with him until September 8th. And it is disputed whether he was able to hire a lawyer of his choosing. His trial was gone at the time of writing. On February 17th, police announced that Kizito Mihigo had been found dead in his cell at the Mela police station in Kigali in alleged suicide. 4 days after his arrest near the border with Burundi, shortly before his death, he told the Human Rights Watch that he was being threatened and told to provide falsely testimonies against the political opponents, and that he went to flee the country because he feared for his safety. Rwandan authority issues statement on the February 25th concluding that Kizito Mihigo died by strangulation in probable suicide, but failed to make details of investigation publicly and all made standard expected for investigation into a death in custodial. In 2015, Kizito Mihigo had been sentenced to 10 years in prison on allegations include the formation of a crime gang, conspiracy to murder, and conspiracy against the established government or the presidential, but was released in September 2018 after presidential pardons. On December 27th in 2019, the Rwandan court upheld the conviction of 2 former military officers. Although the court reduced their sentences to 15 years each, Colonel Tom Byabagamba and retired Brigadier General Frank Lusagara were sentenced to 21 and 20 years in prison, respectively, by the Military High Court of Kanombe in 2016, on charges including instigatory insurrection and tarnishing the governmental images. Prosecutors accused them of criticizing the government in various ways. The court appeal failed to investigate allegation of torture and witness tampering made during the trial. After Byabagamba and Rusagala's lawyer filed an application with the East African Court of Justice in February, new charges were brought against Tom Byabagamba, who was then accused of attempting to bribe his way out of prison. Between April 15th to 17th in 2020, 3 people connected to Tom Byabagamba were arrested and accused of helping him escape the prison. 2 were released in April, and then the 3rd was released in July. Throughout the year, the Rwanda Investigation Bureau carried out house researches and seized properties include electronic equipment and repeatedly called in for questioning Victoria Ingabire, the former president of FDU in opposition party, who formed the new party, the Alpha Umulinzi, in November 2019. A trial concluded on January 23rd in 2021. 70 members of Ingabile's party were convicted of charges including complicity in forming or joining illegal armed forces and had the sentence ranging from 7 to 10 years imprisonment. Other 3 Taufid Hirutwa Abayisenga and Ronald Gasengayile were equipped of all charges and released out. After their release, they gave a video interview to local YouTube channels. Details that pretrial detention and alleging illness treatment and torture, including in Kwagachinya, an official detention facility in the Gikondo neighborhood of Kigali in Nyarugenge and Nyanza prison, and Abayisenga was reportedly missing in June and is fairly forcibly disappeared after going out to buy phone credit. Ntirutwa was arrested following an attack at his shop in Rwamagana district on May 11th, 2020. On May 18th, Ntirutwa and 3 others at his shop at the time of attack who were charged with offenses including murder, theft, and spreading false information with the intention to create hostile international opinion against the Rwanda state. At the time of writing, they are awaiting a trial. Subtitle on freedom of media in Rwanda: State interference and intimidation have forcibly made civil society actors and journalists to stop working on the sensitive political or human rights issue. Most print and broadcast media continue to be heavily dominated by pro-government views. Independent civil society organizations are very weak, and few document and expose human rights violence by state agencies. In March, 4 bloggers were reported on alleged rapes by security forces and negative impact of government directives to counter the spread of COVID-19 on vulnerable populations. We were arrested in crime and circumstances that appear and relation to the government and COVID-19. In months later, prior to arrest, they also shared a testimony about long-standing dispute with the authority over land evictions in Banyahe and the poor neighborhood of Kigali. People in that place faced a different problem based on their heritage and long-term property, because they are neighboring of Kigali. They feel to separate them from Kigali due to their poor neighborhood and poor standard of living. On April 8th, Rwanda Investigation Bureau, together with the police agencies, arrested the Valentina Muhirwa and David Byiringiro, 2 bloggers with Afrimax TV in Kangondo 2 neighborhood of Kigali. 2 residents say the bloggers had requested the permission from the local reader to distribute food and goods after hearing about the population struggles, but Rwanda Investigation Bureau, together with the police agencies, arrested the men, accusing them of violating government directives and organizing unauthorized distribution. In April 12th, Rwanda Investigation Bureau treated the confirmation of a list of Theonest Nsengimana, the owner of Umubavu Online TV and Umubavu.com, for regent food. Rwanda Investigation Bureau accused him of promising 20,000 Rwandan money francs, which is 21 USD, to people to say they are receiving assistance from abroad. The Rwanda Media Commission said in statement on April 13th that none of detained bloggers were arrested in retaliation for their work, and that online bloggers, such as those using YouTube, are not a journalist and are not authorized to interview the population. Muhira and Biringila were released in April. Sengimana, released in May, was awaiting a trial at time of writing. On April 15th, Diodone Nyonsenga, also known as Chuma Hassan, the owner of Ishema TV, was arrested with his drive. Fideli Komezosenge. Under investigation, Bureau accused Nyonsenga of violating lockdown measures and giving Komezosenge an authorized pass. According to Committee to Protest Journalists, they were charged with forging and claiming to be a journalist and yet not have the legal document and the permit to do so. Their trial was ongoing at the time of writing. Subtitle: Arbitrary detention of street children. Transit center in Rwanda are governed by in 2017 law establishing a national rehabilitation service, which stated that non-exhibiting advanced behavior can be held for up to 2 months without many other legal justification and oversight. In July 2020, Human Rights Watch found that new legislation provided covers for police to continue to round up and rehabilitate detained children in debasely and degrading condition at Gikondo Transit Center. In February, the UN United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child called for halt to rehabilitate detention of children in transit center in Rwanda for investigation into allegation of illness treatment, including beating them conditionally, for amendment to the legal framework that regularized this. Subtitle on COVID-19. Rwandan authority reacted swiftly and aggressively to the threat of global COVID-19 pandemic. Police arrested over 70,000 people. Infraction related to the measure introduced in March to prevent the spread of COVID-19, including curfew, those closure of bar and restaurant, restriction on movement. Authority accused the people of violating the measure and detained the people in stadium without due to process and legal authority. Schools were closed out for at least 6 months, starting in March due to the pandemic and affecting about 3.4 million children. Subtitle in International Justice. The arrest of Kabuga Falciani, one of alleged masterminds of Rwandan genocide in France in May, marked a major step towards justice for genocide victims and survivors. Kabuga is charged by international war criminals caught with genocide and related to crime during 1994 genocide back in Rwanda. Was lived in France under false identification at the time of his arrest. Kabuga had evaded arrest since 1997 when he was first indicated by a prosecutor with the International Crime Tribunal for Rwanda, which is ICTR. In September 30th in 2020, French court ordered the Kabul's transfer to the International Residual Mechanism for Crime and Criminal Tribunals, which was established to handle the outstanding function of the ICTR, an international criminal tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, as those tribunals closed. The mechanism has a branch in Arusha, Tanzania, and the huge one is in Netherlands. In May, RMCT announced that remains of another high-profile genocide suspect, Augustin Bizimana, the Minister of Defense at the time of killing, were identified in the point of DRC. He is thought to have died around in August 2000 or in 1998. The ICTR indicated Bizimana on the 13th count of genocide and other related criminals. In August 2020, Rwanda Judicial Authority issued the international arrest warrant against Eroya Niwingabo, the former head of military intelligence, building a genocide after media revealed in July that he was hidden in France. France opened a probe into alleged crime against humanity by Niwirangabo after his whereabouts was revealed in time. Niwirangabo had previously been subject of arrest warrant included by the ICTR. The more report and the investigation data are still into the Idea Validation Center, and we will see it as they announce to later time. But this was very in both sides. They were able to navigate and get the truth about it. They have posted about this is an international report, the global report on Rwanda situation and the living standard